All right, we'll wait for a few more to come on. All right, welcome everybody to our first webcast, our first virtual admissions event of the year here at the Hill School. My name is Tom Eccleston. I am the assistant head of school for enrollment management. I'm also Hill class of 1987. I'm also a proud parent. Both my daughters have graduated from Hill in the last few years. Tonight, we're gonna have a webcast that will last about an hour. We've got 3 students on the virtual event with us tonight. Our head of school, Zach Lehman, 2 faculty members, and a current parent, Mike Smith, is joining us from Washington, D.C. So we're thrilled that you're all joining us tonight. I'm gonna quickly have the students and the faculty introduce themselves and Mr. Smith and quickly give just a brief introduction of where they're from, what they're involved in at Hill, and what's their favorite thing at Hill. And Mia Keen, we're gonna start with you since you're first next to me on the webcast, and then we'll just work our way down the line introducing everybody.
Okay, sounds good. My name is Mia Keen. I'm from San Diego, California. I am captain of the girls water polo team. And my favorite thing about Hill is chapel.
Great. Adele Harris, why don't you go next?
Hi, I'm Adele Harris. I'm from Harrisburg, PA. I'm captain of the girls cross country team, and my favorite thing about Hill is the close-knit community we have.
Great. And Noah Toole next.
How's it going? I'm Noah Toole. I'm a sixth former from Morgantown, Pennsylvania. I'm the SGA co-president, or one of them, and I'm a head of tour as well as the varsity soccer captain and varsity track captain. And I'd say my favorite thing about Hill is the close-knit community.
All right, Mr. Baum. Thank you, Noah. Mr. Baum, you'll go next.
Hi, I'm Ari Baum. To the parents out there, people call me Mr. Baum if they're students here. And I'm the dean of students at Hill. I also teach economics and I coach ice hockey. It's my 10th year here. Thanks everybody for coming tonight.
And Ms. Weisbach.
Great, welcome everyone. My name is Jen Weisbach. A lot of students here call me Dubs. I'm an instructor of science. I'm a dorm head in upper school, so I live with all of the 6th and 5th form girls, and I'm the head field hockey coach, and I'm currently in my 8th year here at Hill. My favorite thing is the relationships I get to build with students.
And last, Mr. Smith. Mike Smith is a current parent. Mike, please introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, my name is Mike Smith. My daughter, Mackenzie, is a 6th form student and colleagues of the other students who've introduced themselves tonight. We live in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside Washington, D.C. Mackenzie's been a 4-year boarder at school, and I would say the favorite thing for all of us in our family is the community at Hill and just the feel that we get from being part of that community.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, everybody. So for the prospective families on the call, we will take questions in the Q&A chat box, or in the Q&A box rather. A lot of you did submit questions ahead of time, so we do have those. I wanted to quickly just review the application process, and I'm happy to review this again at the end of the webcast or during it if anyone has specific questions. But right now we are seeing families on campus. We are open, as Mr. Lehman likes to say. So we are doing in-person interviews on campus with campus tours. Our students are giving the tours as student tour guides. So we have been busy. We started interviews the 2nd week in September, and we're thrilled to, we've already seen a couple hundred people on campus for interviews. Our office will be traveling to meet many people on the road. We'll be doing more of these webcasts throughout the next few months. A quick reminder that the application deadline is January 31st. And then just make sure you go to the Hill, the admissions page of the Hill website, and that will spell out the entire application process for you. We do require the application, obviously, and we use both the Gateway app and the SAO app, and those are linked on the website. We require 3 recommendations: English, math, and a guidance counselor. We do require testing, so whether that's the SSAT as a younger applicant or an ACT, PSAT, or SAT As an older applicant, we also do accept the IC for younger applicants as well. And then obviously an on-campus interview. If you're not able to safely make it to campus, we also do Zoom interviews during the day, and we've also opened up evening slots a few nights a week. So we're excited to meet all of you in this application process. We've got folks from everywhere tonight. We opened up the school year with 544 students, amazingly from 31 different states and 31 countries. And just tonight, I'm looking at my list. We obviously have students on this webcast from the Mid-Atlantic states, Texas, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Florida, West Virginia, Colorado, Arizona, Illinois, Washington State, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Virginia. That's tonight, folks joining us from countries Nepal, South Korea, Mexico, Australia, Switzerland, the Sudan, Brazil, Taiwan, Bermuda, Poland, China, Japan, Singapore, and Uganda. So pretty awesome. Thank you all for joining us. And I now would like to introduce our head of school, Mr. Zach Lehman, who's going to tell you a little bit about our school year and then start the questions. And we have, as I mentioned, our students, faculty, and parents here to answer your questions. So welcome again, Mr. Lehman.
Thanks, Tom. Before I introduce myself, I think we missed one of our panelists, Devondria Bernard. And so I'm just going to give her 1 second to introduce herself.
Hey, everybody. I'm Devondria Bernard. I'm Assistant Director of Admission. I'm a dorm parent in Upper School East. I'm Assistant Girls Varsity Basketball Coach and also class of 2014.
Devondria, do not let me live that down.
No worries.
And Devondria, what do you like best about Hill?
I love the dorm. I mean, we have awesome girls like Dell over here, so she's always putting down the court. Awesome.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. What an amazing crowd we have here on Zoom tonight. It's sort of interesting for us to go back to the Zoom world because we're so used to being in person back at Hill over the last 2 years. So as Tom said, my name is Zach Lehman. I'm the head of school. This is my 10th year as head of school here at the Hill. Like Mr. Eccleston, I have 2 children who graduated from the Hill in 2016 and 2018. So I'm a parent as well. And my grandfather went to the Hill School, which is sort of a odd circumstance. So I've known about the Hill School for a long time. My wife and I have lived here and really enjoyed every aspect of the community. We are, through this crazy time in education, we've really been able to deliver what I think of as a really first-class experience for our students. Even in the challenges of last year, we had almost 80% of our students here in person at any given time, and almost 90% of our students were here at one point or another during the year. And in all of that, we had 2 cases of COVID among our student body. This year, we opened with a record number of students, as Tom shared, nearly 550 students. All of them are here. They're all here, and it's amazing to be back in person, to be doing all of the activities that make this a special place, from classroom learning to the dormitories, to co-curricular and athletic activities, to the arts, and just a lot of fun in and around campus. And our day students are on campus now fully as well. And we have our faculty is all here. So I know that's sort of a weird thing to say, like, hey, we're all here. But in these days, that's a big deal. And so we're actually about to celebrate Parents Weekend, starts tomorrow. And so we're welcoming over 500 parents to campus, and we're just thrilled to be able to share our experience with them. So what do I like best about Hill? Number one is the students. They're just amazing young people. They come from all around the world. They have great energy. They love this school. They love each other. They really value the relationships that they build with their teachers. They leave better people than they arrived, and they come back. Like Devondria, like Tom, they come back and they come back to work. They come back to share their life experiences with our students. They come back to support each other. And we're thrilled to have so many of you here interested in this process, and we hope that you'll consider joining us. So what we're going to do for the rest of the hour, and we've got plenty of time here, is we're going to take questions, and I'm going to sort those questions to the right member of our panel. If it's a student question, one of the students. If it's an admissions question, to one of our admissions officers that are here. If it's a faculty question, to Mr. Baum or to Ms. Weisbach. And if it's a parent question, Mr. Smith will help us out and give us his perspective on that. So I know we have students and parents joining the call, so I hope you won't be bashful. First thing, just in terms of how do you ask questions, and I think by now most of you are used to this, but there are two ways really. You can go the old-fashioned route and type in your question in the Q&A box, and we will get to those as we can. And if you really want to have some fun, you can raise your hand and I will allow you to talk wherever you are in the world. That's the most fun. And all we ask you to do is when we can hear your voice, just tell us your name and where you're from and what grade you're applying to. And if you're a parent, you can just introduce yourself as a parent of a student and tell us a little bit about them. All right, so if we have any hands up, we'll call on them. But in the meantime, we're going to go right to our Q&A box. And the first question I have here is, can you share a little bit about your sports and arts program? So Mia, I'm going to ask you to start on sports, and then Adele, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about arts.
Okay.
They could both talk about either. It doesn't really matter, but they happen to be good at both of them.
Our sports and arts program are really amazing. I play water polo and I also swam last year, but there's also so many new sports that I've never heard of or even tried at Hill. And I think the Hill School gives a lot of opportunities for students to try new things. And I think all the coaches are very qualified and talented. So I think it's really awesome to try new things here.
Thanks, Mia. Adele, you want to talk a little bit about arts at Hill?
At Hill, there's so many different arts you can be a part of. I've been in orchestra and I'm also part of the newly dance program. So there's a bunch of different things you can try. My roommate is an amazing artist and she loves painting, drawing, sketching, anything in that. So there's a bunch of different things you can do in the arts department.
Adele, can you just talk a little bit about how arts can either be academic during the academic day or in the afternoon?
So during the academic day, you can have them as a course, like studio art, dance, orchestra, choir, those can all be in your schedule. And then after school, there's afternoon arts. So instead of going to your sports practice, you would go to the art studio and really paint whatever you wanted to work on.
So one of the nice things about Hill, and it's not true about every school that we've been involved with, but you can be an artist during the academic day and still pursue your athletic interests in the afternoon. And that's something that's pretty fantastic. In fact, some of our best artists and performing artists are some of our best athletes as well. And it's fun to see that crossover. Noah, can you just add a little bit on the sort of competitiveness of our athletic programs for students who are really looking for sort of college-bound athletics?
Yeah, I would say that it's we're super competitive in almost every sport that we have. We have different levels. So we have entry level like thirds, then there's the JV, then there's the varsity. But our varsity teams are quite competitive. We travel pretty far. I know that like the hockey team, they travel kind of up in the Northeast. Soccer goes down as south as Virginia. Water polo travels probably a lot of the East Coast, and some of our teams usually might take a spring break trip down to like a southern region just for the warm weather. But I know that we do win states a lot. We win a lot of our league championships. So we have that coming up against Lawrenceville, which a lot of our teams are pretty psyched about. But we do have the coaches that have either played in college, like Ms. Weisbach down there. We have those coaches that have played in college and know what they're talking about, and they have the connections to get anybody to almost whatever college they really want to and desire to go to, as well as you build bonds with other kids that aspire to go to college. So I know that the majority of the teams have at least 4 or 5 students who are going to play at a higher level, whether that be D3, D2, or D1. The Hill is really open to pushing each kid for their best.
Ms. Weisbach, I heard that we have a pretty good field hockey team this year. Can you say anything about that?
Yeah, I'm proud of our girls. We have a pretty strong team, but I think Noah hit on it. And I think one thing to add too is the support between the teams is pretty incredible. So I would say Hill Pride is on full display right now.
I saw online that yesterday our boys ice hockey team battled the girls field hockey team and it came down to a penalty shot at the end.
Yes, we do a nice little annual tradition where we get to scrimmage the boys ice hockey team. And again, just another example of our teams mixing and supporting each other. And shout out to those guys and all the teams who have been able to support our team this fall.
Awesome. All right. Well, we have a hand up. We're going to go to Melissa Ayers. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Melissa, can you hear me?
I can, and thank you very much, Melissa Ayers. Thank you for the opportunity to ask some questions as a parent. My daughter, Lauren Ayers, is currently an 8th grader at Montgomery School and is in absolute love with the Hill School. But as a parent, I have a question with regard to day student versus boarding student. We live 15 minutes from the campus. I live in Chester Springs. So quite naturally, she would be a day student, at least for the first few years. And as I've talked to other parents, they have shared with me that the first year as a day student, you're not running back and forth as much. But by the time they get to their sophomore and junior year, they're spending so much time on campus, you almost want them to be a boarding student just because of the back and forth on a daily, Monday through Friday, as well as the weekends. So can you just kind of speak to the validity of that, or how do students acclimate as day students when and if the majority of their friends are boarders? What is that journey like and that engagement?
I'm going to ask two of our panelists to answer your question. It's a great one. By the way, I'm a former Montgomery school parent, so always good to talk to a Monty family.
Absolutely.
Noah would be perfect for this.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Noah to answer the question. Noah is a day student who's now a boarder in his 6th form year. And then I'll ask Mr. Baum just to talk a little bit about how we support our day students, because the dean's office does a lot of that.
Yeah, I would say that since I was, like Mr. Lehman mentioned, I was a day student for my first 3 years, and now I'm a current boarder. I would say that day student life is how you make it. I know some parents, they want their kids to be home at a certain time just because you guys have a busy life and a busy schedule and work and stuff like that. But I know that day students and boarders are strongly acclimated within each other. It's like you guys are just all siblings. There are times where, Mr. Baum may touch on like the times that day students primarily leave, but you can come to breakfast, you can come to, everyone has lunch, but you can come to dinner, you have your sports with all these students. So everyone's pretty acclimated within each other. I mean, COVID was an oddball year, just with keeping the boarders and day students just a little bit separate. But now that it's back to normal, it's really nice. And I see as a boarder that there isn't really much different, especially being 15 minutes away like you are. I wouldn't see any trouble with that or any negative vibes coming from that.
Mr. Baum, do you want to add a little bit to that?
Sure, and I'm sort of repeating what Noah said, but I guess rephrasing it, which is that I don't know really who the day students are versus who the boarders are. I know that the day students leave at the end of each day and don't sleep here, but all of the that you can't really tell the difference otherwise. Day students have access and use the access to dormitories, and there's not really any distinction in terms of access to the school. And I think Noah captured that well. And that actually isn't the way a lot of other boarding schools are for whatever reason. But I think at this school, the day students are very closely integrated, and that's captured well, that there is a 1-year boarding requirement for all the day students. So all day students still are boarders at some point in their careers, usually as 6th formers or seniors.
Thank you, Mr. Baum. Thanks for the question, Melissa.
Thank you.
All right, we have another hand up. I'm going to go to Ravathi. Ravathi, can you hear me?
Yes, so I'm Trinity. I'm an 8th grader at in Virginia, and I just had a question. So a lot of people, you guys were all talking about the sense of community here at Hill. So what do you guys do on weekends? How do you ensure that, what is that sense of community like? What do you guys do again on the weekends, or to build bonds and relationships with not only teachers, but students as well?
Mia, could you talk a little bit about your weekends, or our weekends?
Sure. I'll give last weekend as an example. We had a lot of sports games, and this past couple of weeks, we've had blue light games. So all the students will go and support our fellow classmates in their sporting events, and we'll all go celebrate the game together and go get dinner together. But also, if there's nothing going on that weekend, we usually have student activities out on the quad or in the field house if it's cold, but recently the weather's been pretty nice. So we all hang out together. We're mostly outside for a majority of the weekend. And yeah, we're just having a good time together, really.
Dell, can you talk a little bit about Dorm Cup and like trips and like off-campus trips?
So for the Dorm Cup, it's basically a competition between all of the dorms. So it's a great bonding experience to really get to know the people in your dorm and work together to beat the other dorms. And for off-campus trips, there's always trips to Target, which I love going on. There's also King of Prussia trips, which is the closest mall, which a lot of students love going to. And there's also trips to H Mart, which has a bunch of restaurants and food places. So there's a lot of different activities you can do on the weekends.
Mr. Lehman, if I can chime in, as Mrs. Eccleston, my wife, helps with the weekends as a weekend duty team leader. The Hill, I know from a faculty standpoint, has made a real commitment to making the weekends as active as possible, both as Mia and Adele said, on campus, but also off campus. Last year was a little different with COVID. We didn't go off campus as much, but I've always said that we really try to utilize our surroundings, using Philadelphia a lot and local restaurants and hiking and skiing on occasions in the Poconos and different things like that. So the faculty groups that take turns every weekend get very creative. And I know if students want to chill out on the weekend, they can do that, but there's also a lot of opportunities to do stuff within an hour radius of the Hill, which is great.
Yeah, and I think one of the ways you can know that weekends are good at Hill is by how many students are on campus when they have the opportunity to go home. And actually, about 90% of our students will stay on campus, even when it's what we call an open weekend. And many of our day students will come to campus because it's more fun on campus than it is at home, and they want to be part of that community building. So the Dorm Cup is a fairly new thing at Hill, and it's going really well. A lot of rivalries between the dorms, and it's just fun. It's just fun, different kinds of activities that you can imagine, sort of like a dorm Olympics. All right, we have a lot of questions. So thank you, Ravathi, for your question. Good luck with your application. Okay. All right, I'm going to call on Ansh. Ansh, are you there?
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Love. You can just call me Love. I live in Indiana, and I was just wondering if you guys have vertical housing.
All right. So vertical housing, for those of you who don't know the term, it's a very impressive bit of knowledge you have there, Love. Vertical housing is what we in the boarding school world talk about when all the students live together in all the different grades. And so I'll just answer that question because it's a pretty easy one. Basically, the answer is no. All of our third form students live together. That's our ninth graders. They live in small houses with about 12 total students, including 2 sixth formers or seniors and a dorm parent.
Oh, okay.
Then all of our sophomores live together in 2 large dorms. So all the boys live in one dorm and all the girls live in the other. And then the only place we sort of have vertical housing is in the upper forms, in the 5th and 6th form. We have dorms for students in those, and they're bigger dorms. So as you get older at Hill, you go into a bit larger and larger dorm settings, but there's always a pretty tight ratio of dorm parents to students, about 12 to 1. So you'll have sort of hallways, and we added a new dorm this year, which is just for 5th and 6th form girls, and that's a pretty popular dorm as well. So hope it works out for you, Love.
Yeah. Also, I was also wondering about student-run clubs. So, do you guys have like clubs run by students here?
We do. Noah, would you like to take on the club question?
Yes. So we have a lot of clubs. Almost anything that you can think of, we already have a club, or you can make one. That just sounds so like cliche, but like we really have it like that. There's Operation Smiles. There's Black Student Union. There's the Philanthropy Council. There. So there's a lot of clubs.
Oh, wonderful.
Where you
there's a picture of all of our clubs, Love. That just went up today.
Oh, okay. That's amazing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you can do, and there's a lot of opportunities that you can have. So
awesome. Thanks, Love. We got to go on to the next
All right.
question. All right, we're going to take one from the Q&A. This is a question for you, Mr. Eccleston. How many 10th graders do you accept? How many 10th graders apply?
We typically will have about 250 to 300 applications for 10th grade. We look to enroll about 25 new 10th graders every year. Most of them are boarders, and that's split evenly between boys and girls. So, you know, we'll take about usually about 50 students in the 10th grade to get about 25. So that's typically our goal, is to enroll about 12 or 13 boys, boarding boys, and 12 or 13 boarding girls in what we call the fourth form. So obviously the biggest entry year is third form and 9th grade, but the 10th grade is the second biggest.
All right, the next question is a speed round question. Everyone get ready. Everyone's got to give an answer. I'm going to call on you in order. The question is, what school traditions bring the community together? And here's the rule. You have to name the tradition. You don't have to tell us much about it, but you can't name a tradition that someone else mentions. I'm going to let Mike Smith go first because he hasn't had a chance, and that way he doesn't have to repeat anybody. Go ahead.
I have so many to choose from then.
Choose your favorite.
No, coming up this weekend is one of my favorite, Parents Weekend. It's just a great time, especially when my daughter was a third former. It's really the first time to see her in her element at Hill, and she was immediately, that was her place and part of that family. It was just so wonderful to see and meet her teachers and meet the other her classmates and dorm mates, and I really, really love that weekend.
All right, Devondria, favorite tradition?
I would say family night, which is when you on your hall with your dorm parent, all the girls or guys in your hall gets together, has a snack, watch a movie, and you enjoy each other's company.
Tuesday nights, family night. All right, Mia, favorite tradition?
This is a newer tradition, but I thought Dorm Cup really brought everyone together. The most recent one I wasn't here for that, but the first one we had a volleyball tournament, and it was so much fun. Everyone was really, really competitive. Noah will not let it slide that Wendell won, but it's okay. US East will come back, promise.
Mr. Eccleston, favorite Hill tradition?
I'll make it a unique one. Noah will laugh at this, but saying happy birthday to tour guides as they tour families.
All right, we don't need to explain that one, I guess. Adele, favorite Hill tradition?
I have to go with Elville Weekend. It's just a really fun time, and the dance is my favorite part of it after all the athletics are over.
For those who don't know what Elville is, that's Lawrenceville. That's our rival school, the 5th oldest high school rivalry in the country. We're coming up on our 134th annual competition with Lawrenceville. And we happen to own the Meg's Green Cup right now, which is the cup for the school that wins the most competitions that day. So we hope to hold on to that cup, right, Adele? All right. Mr. Baum, favorite Hill School tradition?
It's more of like a cultural norm, but I would call it a tradition, which is that most people know most people's names at this school.
That is true. All right, Noah, you're running out of traditions. Actually, there's so many.
Yeah, Dell took mine, but I'd say J-ball.
J-ball,
that's always a big one.
Tell them what J-ball is quickly.
Okay, so J-ball is the mix between tennis and baseball, and it's kind of like it sounds. It's just you use a tennis ball and a tennis racket, but kind of play the same rules as baseball. But usually it's like just a group of friends get together on a team, and it's a super big event by the end of the year. So that will be part of Dorm Cup for this year.
Been played at Hill for 70 plus years, invented by an alumnus who played tennis at Wimbledon. There you go. Ms. Weisbach, favorite tradition?
I'm going to say seated lunch. Very few schools have the ability to have every student and every faculty member in the same space at least once a day for the school week. So I think that's pretty special and certainly one of my favorite traditions.
That was mine. So I go last. I'm going to say jumping in the Dell after graduation. We have a tradition here. Right after the 6th formers graduate, they change into some alumni t-shirts and they go jump into our campus pond and they celebrate together. And it's just an amazing moment of class unity and happiness and joy and relief. And it is just an awesome sight. And I've never seen it at any other school quite the same. So there are our traditions. That was a long speed round, but that was fun. All right, we've got a hand up. I'm going to call on Amy. We know this Amy. Hello, Amy Lignelli.
Hi, I'm Jack McNally. I'm on my mom's.
Hi, Jack. We know you too. Hi, Jack.
Yeah, hi. I was wondering, I'm Jack McNally. I go to Owen J. Roberts and I play football. So I was wondering if like how football or sports in general in school like mesh, and if I commit too much to one, if I'll miss out on some stuff that I could have done on the other.
Sure. Mr. Baum, could you talk a little bit about sports and athletics and how that all works out?
Sure. Jack, thanks for your question. I think the unique part about this environment is that everything's under one roof, so to speak, even though we have multiple buildings on the campus. The students are able to do all the things that they care about and want to do right on the campus, and it all fits together in one day. So a lot of kids who are used to maybe doing outside sports at their other schools, they have to choose a lot. They have to miss some school. They have to maybe miss some of their outside games. Hill is able to fit those pieces together in a way that allows students to kind of do everything. And whether it be something new or something that they're really passionate about athletically or otherwise. And I think the experience plays out in much that way as well, meaning almost every single person who coaches a sport at this school is a teacher or as a dorm parent. So as faculty, we don't actually distinguish that much between the athletic arena, football field or hockey rink or basketball court, and the dormitory or the English classroom or even the dining hall. We as faculty see all of those as opportunities for students to grow and to grow together with others. So I think that's maybe the most important part of playing sports at the school, is that we feel like in a lot of ways it's the same thing as doing anything else at the school. So I really appreciate the question, because I think you don't hear too many kids thinking that way at this point in history.
Jack, thanks for your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Bernard, I have a couple of questions for you for the admissions process. It's really several questions, but how many apply in the 9th grade? How many apply in 10th grade? We already answered. How many in 11th grade? Do we take 11th graders? And maybe you can talk about PGs.
Yeah. So in the 9th grade, we have around 100 incoming students. I would say we take around a little over 200, or we accept a little over 200. The 10th grade rate talks about that. The 11th grade, we take about 10 kids incoming. And in the senior class, with a combination of that and PGs, I would say about 15 kids. What was the second part of that question, Mr. Lehman?
You got it.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So just to clarify, so we matriculate about 100 9th graders or third forms. We usually admit about 170 or 180, but there'll probably be 400 that will apply, give or take, for that grade. So there you go. All right, so that answered a bunch of questions. We're going to go back to hands. Judy McGinn. Judy, are you there? If you are, Judy.
Hello, I'm Megan McGinn. I go to Pottstown and I'm in 8th grade. I do soccer, basketball, and track and field.
Cool.
And I'm Judy McGinn. I'm Megan's mom, obviously.
Hi, Judy.
The nice part for us is we live a block from the Hill School.
Short commute.
Yeah, right. I want to thank you guys so much for having us tonight. And I must say to all the parents in the United States and beyond that you do a fabulous job with your security. With living a block away, there is always a security vehicle at all times. I want to commend you on that to start.
Thank you.
My question is actually really good for you guys as well. Can you talk a little bit about foster families for those students that live out of the country? This is something that I have been trying to promote throughout Pottstown to families, that it's a good way for everybody to stay connected and a good way for the Hill School to stay connected with the community.
Sure, it's a great question. I'm not sure, Mia, Adele, or Noah, have you hosted any student? Have your families hosted any students? Noah, great. Noah, can you talk a little bit about our host family program, and then I can chime in a little bit?
Yeah, so I've hosted a plethora of students, either by in my grade or form, or my brother who graduated in 2019. So usually for me, I've gotten usually athletes that are on my team that kind of just need a place to stay. But right now I have a host kid who's a junior or fifth former. He stays with me and will be staying with me for a while. But I know that the program that the Hill sets up is really nice. Either it's, just a random kid, or you can request someone that you became close with, and then they can come home with you over the longer breaks if they cannot get home. So I know that Parents Weekend, they might be able to go home with you, or Thanksgiving break, whereas over the winter break or spring break, they might be able to go home. I know that Gavin, who's with me, he stays with me, he has his own room. He's like a brother to me. He's on the soccer team as well, but my little brother, who's a ninth grader here, we just love him to death. He just fits right in with our family. He plays club soccer with us. So we kind of incorporate him in our family. But I know that many other students have the same story with their host kids. So I think that the Hill does a really nice job of pairing students and families with the right fit.
I just want to note for the record, Noah, that you used the word plethora in your answer, which was impressive. You must have just taken the SATs this past weekend. One thing to add, just as a side note to that, this is a long weekend we have coming up after Parents Weekend. So all of our students are going home, and we have a pretty substantial number of international kids, over 100 students this year. And because of COVID, many of them can't go home, and their parents can't come here because of the quarantine requirements. And of those 100 some odd students, only 2 are staying on campus. So that just shows the strength of our community. And I know even for a student from Mia, who's far away from home, if her parents weren't able to come here this weekend, she'd have her choice of friends who would love to have her spend the weekend with them. They'd be fighting over. So it's a great way to make friends, lifelong friends in many ways. So thanks for your question, Judy, and thanks for the neighborly comments.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you so much.
Yeah. See you around the neighborhood.
Okay.
All right. All right. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A. Here we go. Ms. Weisbach, what is the student to teacher ratio number at Hill? I'm sorry, having trouble reading that one. Sorry. Go ahead.
I have about, I would say on average, 11 to 12 kids in my classes. The largest classes I've had have been around 14 to 15.
Great.
So very small, intimate classes.
Yeah. Mr. Baum, can you talk a little bit about your large format classes?
Yeah, so I mentioned I teach economics, and I have a couple of the students on this call in class, and I have Mike Smith's daughter in there as well. Even though almost all the classes at the school are 10, 12, 13 students, I always like to say there's no back rows in classes at the school. You can't, because they're just too small, which I think is emblematic of how this school is structured, that most people know most people, as I said earlier. That said, in economics, we structure it more like a college class. So the AP Econ class has 57 students in one class, and it's more in what you think of as like a college lecture hall format, but you have 4 teachers in the one class, as well as several students who actually took AP economics as juniors or fifth form that basically help with the current students' learning. We think it's important that when students get to college, that it's not the first time they walk into a big auditorium and are sitting with a lot of different people in a room. And I went to a small boarding school like Hill, where you had really small classes, and I struggled a bit when I got to college because I had these huge classes. So we started doing this, I think 7, 8 years ago now. So it's been a while, and I think it's been really successful, not because it's easy for every student who goes into these big classes, but I think because it's like almost necessary to experience that before you get to college, when you're going to be in a bigger class that does not have nearly as much support as how we try to provide it in our classes.
Thanks, Mr. Baum. All right, Mr. Smith.
I was just going to mention that one other important note. that probably was mentioned, but is really worth highlighting. I think all the faculty at Hill live on campus with all the boarding students. So a lot of what happens in the classrooms, big or small, students naturally need extra support and have follow-ups. There's so much access on the campus because every single one of the students' teachers are here. They live right here on campus. So it's a really convenient environment for both in class and out of class.
All right. I'm going to ask a question to you, Mr. Smith and Adele. This is a question from Alex online. He says, hello, my name is Alex, and I am a parent of an 8th grader in Hong Kong. My daughter sees the nice uniform that Mia and Adele are wearing, and she wants to know who does laundry and if she will need to iron her own shirts. Thanks. So I'm going to change the question. Mr. Smith, I'm going to ask you to answer first. What have you seen in terms of the changes in terms of your daughter and her independence and how she's been able to sort of manage those things that maybe you and your wife took care of when she was at home? And then Adele, maybe you can speak from the student perspective of how you have taken on those responsibilities as you've grown up here at the Hill.
Yeah, it's a really interesting part of the Hill experience and boarding school experience. I think Mackenzie is an only child. And so I think she was used to be waited on hand and foot when she was at home. And that doesn't happen when you get to Hill. You have to do your own laundry. You have to manage your own diet. You have to manage your own time. You have to set your own alarm clock. All those things have to happen. And it's what's interesting is not only how sort of quickly those changes came within Mackenzie, but because she's in the environment where everyone is sort of experiencing that for the first time, there's a lot of support in that. Right? And a lot of the students are sort of doing these things by themselves for the first time. So they end up helping one another and calling or texting each other in the morning to make sure they're awake and make it to breakfast and those sorts of things. And so it's really been, a lot of our friends worry about their children. My daughter's now a 6th former going off to college and being independent for the first time. We have none of those concerns because she's already gone through that experience and is really well prepared now to be on her own in a bigger college environment.
Thanks, Mike. Adele, you want to add to that or share your own personal journey in that regard?
So most students do their own laundry, but there's also a laundry service that you can use. And I use that for my blazers and shirts because when you wash them by yourself, they tend to be very wrinkled. So having them ironed is very nice.
What about in general, though, like just becoming more independent at Hill, Adele, in terms of like what you've learned here and how you've been able to do that without the support of your family?
I think it definitely prepares you for college and it helps you manage your time better and be on top of your own stuff. And I think it's really great.
All right.
Mr. Lehman, if I can chime in as a parent, obviously I'm biased about how we prepare students for college at Hill. I've always said at Hill, there's a great balance, Mr. Smith alluded to about structure and independence, but having 2 daughters in college and at 2 competitive academic schools, but also college athletes, I think managing their time is something that they have learned at Hill and the independence they experienced at Hill. And talking to them or texting with them and seeing how they might use free time during the day, not just at night, and and comments from them that how well prepared they were entering college compared to some of their friends at college who are not used to that independence, where they don't need reminders to do things because they had that training at Hill. And I think that's what we want them to have when they head off to their next stop in college.
Devondria is nodding her head and raising her hand.
Yes.
She's got to add to this. I can't keep her from I can't stop.
100%. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm class of 2014 and going off of what Mr. Eccleston just said as well. I went off to college and there are so many other people around me who just like fish with their head out of the water, like had no idea how to handle being in that environment. It was just smooth sailing for me. And I think a funny story too is, so I played basketball here at Hill. Wasn't my plan to play basketball in college in the slightest. Went off to college and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with all this time, right? Like I was yearning to do more, ended up joining the basketball team, ended up being captain my senior year. So I think Hill really does a good job, like you said, having independence and also getting the desire to do more and to be more. as well.
All right. We're going to go to Noah anyway, Noah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's Wordy, sorry. I just had a quick question about varsity sports.
Sure.
Because I play lacrosse in Brooklyn. I'm in the 8th grade at Williamsburg Northside. I just wanted to ask, is there like an age requirement to play varsity, or is it all skill based? Because I know that some schools decide that when you're a senior, unless you're extraordinary, that you should be able to play varsity. But I know at places like Lawrenceville, it's very skill based versus age.
All right, Noah wants to answer this question.
Yeah, one Noah to another Noah. But no, at Hill, it's just skill based. We don't have an age limit. We have various levels of the sport. But no, to answer your question in the simplest form, freshmen can play varsity. I know that I did when I was a freshman in soccer and track and field. There's so many other students that have played other sports as a freshman, including at Dell. So you can, it's just all skill based. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have quite a few third formers who make varsity teams, and we do have one sort of age. There's two age rules. One is you can't be too old. You can't turn 19 before the beginning of your sixth form year. And you also, if you're a senior, you can only play on a JV team if there's room. So we try to give JV opportunities to younger students. But if a senior is interested in playing JV, if there's room on that team, we will support that. So good luck, Noah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yep. All right, next up, we've got William Marsh. William, are you there? William. You got to unmute yourself, William. Maybe William.
Oh, hey, sorry.
Oh, there you are. All right, go for it, William.
Andrew Marsh here. I'm Hill 86. Hey, Tom, how you doing? I guess I've got two questions. This has been actually very enlightening because it's good to hear that it sounds like the Hill School has kind of moved away from a lot of the traditions that I am used to or that I was privy to. I guess the one thing the question I have is the 7 o'clock bell, 7:05, 7:15. Sounds like the bells do not drive the students anymore, which I think is a good thing. But I guess I'm asking the students, do you then find time to have breakfast and dinner? Because it sounds like you're not required to go to breakfast and dinner, whereas we were back in the 80s. I guess that's my first question. My second question is, who are the parents that have replaced the Giamattis and the Walbridges for those of us who live a little bit further away for Thanksgiving, I guess? It was wonderful that the students take fellow students, but are there faculty that do the same?
I'm going to let Mia answer the question about bells and seated meals. And Mia, can you just sort of talk about meals at Hill and how that works and sort of time management?
Yeah, of course. Because we are such a close-knit community, mostly everyone still goes to breakfast and dinner with their teams or with their friends. Seated lunch, like we said, is usually with your team or advisory, but we, at least with my team, like we are so close-knit that we go to breakfast together, especially on game days, and right after practice, we go straight to dinner together. So we really try to make sure that we're still spending as much time as possible together. Just because we're in a close-knit community, I think it's very important to encourage that time together. So yeah.
Just to be clear, we still have seated lunches every day. And in normal years, we will have one seated meal for dinner each week. We're sort of holding off on that right now, but we'll probably go back to that fairly soon. In Mr. Marsh's day, Mia, they had 21 seated meals a week. So that's why he's a little thrown off. But yeah, the dining hall is full. The dining hall has been renovated recently, and the food is fantastic, and kids come no matter what. As far as the sort of Thanksgiving break, we don't, generally speaking, our students don't stay on campus during the Thanksgiving break. It's a week long now. Most of them will go home or to a host family. but we occasionally, and like last year, we did have students stay through Thanksgiving break, and there were lots of longtime faculty families here on campus that you would remember, Mr. Marsh, including the Nelsons and Margie Nicewender and others. And then there's new younger faculty members that have replaced some of them, like Ms. Weisbach and Mr. Baum and the Ecclestons. Well, they were there, but he was a classmate of yours. But there are a lot of families that on campus that serve as hosts and invite students over to their homes and live in the dorms. So as Mr. Eccleston said, most of our faculty live on campus, 98% actually, and about 2/3 of them live in the dormitories. So they really do get to know the students well. Thanks for your question. Glad you're in the hunt here for bringing your child back to Hill.
Thank you for the answers. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sure. And there's definitely not a 7 a.m. bell anymore. We start classes at around 8:30. So we've given them a little bit more sleep. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, we have time for about 10 minutes more for questions. So I'm going to go to the Q&A box here. Mr. Eccleston, quick question. What's the boy-girl ratio at Hill?
Boy-girl ratio is 53% boys, 47% girls, and that also mirrors our applicant pool as well.
All right. Do you provide private music lessons for trombones? I mean, I think we can talk about more than trombones. Adele, you want to talk about music lessons?
So my fourth form year and third form year, I took cello lessons. So they'll bring instructors from outside of the school, and you can take lessons during your free period or after school. And Mrs. Nicewinder will work with you so that if you don't have a free period, you can take it during orchestra or jazz band, whichever one you do. And yeah, it's a really nice resource to use.
All right. Ms. Weisbach, there's a couple of questions here about STEM opportunities at Hill and the Quadrivium Center and engineering and robotics. Can you sort of throw all those together in one good answer?
Sure, I'll do my best. So I'm sitting in the Quadrivium right now. We have brand new classrooms, totally renovated, pretty incredible facilities for our STEM curriculum. So we house all our science courses here, our engineering, our math, our media studio is in the basement. So we have pretty much a huge array of spaces and classrooms and just a ton of new space that's, I think, pretty phenomenal. I was a neuroscience major in college, and so we have brand new hoods and basically anything you need or want to be successful in the STEM fields, we have that here in this building. And it's awesome. We're open multiple nights during the week for extra help with teachers. And yeah, we host speakers in the lobby. It's a pretty incredible, I would say, unique space that we love.
All right, students, for $100, can any of you tell me what quadrivium means in Latin? Noah?
Isn't it the intersection between different paths or different roads?
That's like a $10 answer, Noah, but it's close. It's close. It's where four rivers meet. You almost had it, Noah. I'll give you $10. All right. All right. Mr. Baum, are there Harkness tables at the Hill School?
Yes, there are. I mentioned the size of the classes being small, which is conducive to all students sitting around a table. But I don't know, I was trying to come up with a better way to say this. There's not. Our Harkness tables are better than the Harkness tables at any other school.
All right.
I don't know why, but they are.
Hey, William Marsh, the guy who just asked the question, he answered the Latin question right, Noah. He put up in the Q&A where four rivers meet. He learned Latin in the 80s.
I don't take Latin. I just guessed.
All right, good enough. All right, let's go to another hand up. Christina Gibson. Christina, are you still there? You've been waiting all this time.
Yes, it's Mike and Christina Gibson. John Gibson, our son's an 8th grader at Country School in Eastern Maryland. First, Julie Tutt O'Donnell, says, oh, she's a good friend.
My best friend's older sister. It's a small world. Hello, Julie, if you're there.
And Noah answered the question when we were originally asking a question about lacrosse program, but during the conversation, you guys were talking a little bit about the advisory. I would be interested in knowing a little more about that. If it's multiple grades, I assume, and how many students are in each advisory.
All right, I'm going to ask Devondria to talk a little bit about advisories. And then Mr. Smith, can you just talk about how the advisor interacts with parents? Because I think that's maybe a little bit at the root of this question too.
Yep. So every student has an advisor, and you'll have the student will have the same advisor for whatever amount of time they're spending at Hill. The advisory can range. So I'm in my first year here. I have 4 students. There are some other teachers who have 8, 9, or 10 students in their advisory. And you meet at least once a week for a designated advisor period. You also have advisor lunch every Friday. And before Mike Smith talks about it, there's the relationship between the faculty and the parent is really close. So I have my advisees' parents' phone numbers, and I'm texting them, I'm calling them, giving them updates as I get that from teachers, as well as the relationship between the advisor and the advisee. Mrs. Eccleston, Mr. Eccleston's wife, was my advisor, and we kept in touch even throughout, even after I graduated. So I think it's a pretty close relationship.
Mike, can you talk about the relationship between parents and advisors?
Yeah, and I'm biased because I think Mackenzie's got the best advisor on campus in Amanda Doherty. But we actually wrote an email to Amanda just this week. She had reached out to us, for just sort of a check-in. And one of the things that I said is it's nice to have a third parent in the mix, and that's really what she is. She acts as sort of our on-campus parent in a lot of ways from Mackenzie. One of the things that was interesting about our advisor experience is that Mackenzie actually had a different advisor her third form year, somebody that she got along with really well, and a group that she really liked, but was looking for a different kind of connection with her advisor, and had the opportunity to make that change in a subsequent year for what she needed. It wasn't anything that we as parents advocated for. It was Mackenzie, again, this is part of the maturing process, advocating for herself, recognizing that she wanted a different kind of support, and going out and finding it. And so it's a great relationship. It does feel like, one of our strongest connections to the campus is through the advisor, and Mackenzie's got absolute trust in that person too, and seeks her out from everything from, class challenges to social dynamics to different opportunities she wants to pursue on campus. So it's a really important relationship.
All right, Adele, Noah, Mia, you have 2 seconds to say one word or one phrase about how you feel about your advisor. Adele, you go first.
I just have so much appreciation for her. She's really been there whenever I needed her. So it's just been a really good, yeah, I really like it.
All right, Noah, one word or one phrase.
Safe place.
Safe place, cool. Mia.
Best advisory on campus.
Best advisor on campus.
Yeah.
All right, good job. All right, we're gonna take one last question. Let's see here. I'm gonna go with Tarsha Barton. I don't know why I'm choosing you, Tarsha, but it's a pretty cool name, so we're gonna go with that.
It's actually Messiah Barton. I'm currently at the Eagle Brook School for Boys.
Sorry, say where are you again?
Eagle Brook School for Boys.
Oh yeah, we know Eagle Brook. Great, thanks for calling in.
I'm asking about, are there any affinity groups at Hill?
When you say affinity groups, can you clarify that? You mean in addition to clubs?
Like a safe space for like students of color or race?
Absolutely. I'm going to let Adele answer that question because she's one of our student leaders in that area.
So we are actually working on that right now. So maybe by the time you come to Hill, that will be in full swing. Our diversity, equity, and inclusion team is relatively new. So that's one of our main goals for this year.
Thanks, Adele. And we do have a number of affinity groups. Noah, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, we have the DEI team, like Adele mentioned, but we do have a lot of clubs of the sort, like SOGI, as well as GUTS and Black Student Union. But we also just have a new center called the Warner Center. That's like a safe place for the different affinity groups, the different allies, the different types of groups that want to talk about gender equality, race equality, anything in that sort, religious equality. So we do have a safe space in that regard, but like Adele said, it is fairly new. But by the time you get here, it'll be better than ever.
All right. Well, that is a good note to end on. As someone once said, always leave them wanting more, not less. So we have, I think, a bunch of hands up and a bunch of questions in the chat room and in the Q&A as well. We're just not going to be able to get to them all. Hopefully you've learned something here tonight that makes you want to learn more about Hill. Please, Tom's going to add to this, but please do schedule a visit to campus. We're going to have several more of these webcasts in the coming weeks and months. Reach out to the admissions office with questions, and definitely go onto our website and our social media. You can learn a lot more. But you know, it's a fantastic community, and we'd love to see this interest, and we love to show off our students and faculty. So we'll be doing this again. Mr. Eccleston, you have the last word.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lehman. Just quickly, a quick review again of your visit. We would love to see you on campus for an on-campus visit or interview. As I mentioned earlier, we also conduct Zoom interviews if you cannot make it to campus, but the online registration is right on the admissions webpage. Your visit to campus will last about an hour and a half. You'll have a 45-minute tour with a student. As I said, we have about 100 different student tour guides who will walk you around and answer your questions. And then you'll have a one-on-one interview with a member of the admission office. And our admissions website, the admissions page on the website also spells out the application process, which I mentioned earlier in terms of application recommendations and required standardized testing. So we hope to see you soon on campus. We'll be doing interviews right up to the deadline of January 31st. So we hope to see you soon here in Pottstown.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to our panelists. Thanks for everyone for showing up. And we wish you a great weekend, and go Hill. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.